Cemetery in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and we're in front of the Holyoke Receiving Tube 1868 because back a long time ago, 160 years ago, there was no ability to, in the winter, open up a burial site, and so they had to hold bodies here for the duration of the winter until the spring, and then open up the graves for these burials. Now, this is not used anymore, but it's so beautiful. The look that they painted here. You can see the masonry work is darkened, and that's the way it is around the entirety. And around here are some very important burials, so we're going to point them out, and then we're going to go around again and scan the whole cemetery. This is in a garden style cemetery. That means that it was made to look beautiful, with beautiful trees, bushes, flowers. And this cemetery was made in the 1860s. A lot of these were made from 1820 to 1880, so this is one of the later ones. All right, so we'll go around. All right, this family right here has a stone, but it did not start here. This is a reburial and removal that was caused. Pause. We're in front of the root gravestone, and this one happens to have been moved from the Congregational Cemetery that was on Northampton Street at the corner of Hampton Street. And in the 1880s, they moved it from there and almost entirely to Forestdale. Some of the bodies went to Chicopee and other places, but most went to this cemetery, Forestdale. And this was one of the three very large stones they moved. The Root family is on the front, but you see towards the bottom, Clarissa Tuttle married the Root. And that's more important because if you come to this side, and you'll see on this side of the gravestone, another family is visible here. This other family is Henry Tuttle and Clarissa French. They came from Amherst down to the Holyoke area, and that's where they lived. They lived somewhere on Northampton Street near the Congregational Church that used to be up there. Henry Tuttle died in 1851. Holyoke was just made into a town the year before. And his son and daughters were buried here. And so you can see around here the smaller stones indicate the Tuttle family. This is one of only three very large stones removed, and then there's a lot of smaller ones. About 18 bodies were moved, which is actually quite a bit. Okay, so we'll keep going around this circle or oval. And if you look down this pathway here, you see burials that are above the ground. They're called Columbariums. That's where the bodies are made into ashes, and then they will still want to memorialize them. And so there's three of them, and he's going to put in more if they need them. And what happens when they're filled up, they're sealed, and then the names and dates that the family want to have are put onto the face of them. It's a very beautiful idea, and it fits down this nice little street here. So the concept just started last year, and it's starting to work already. Okay, and if you look down this one, there's two mausoleums. There's actually a third mausoleum inside this cemetery, and they are of the Perkins family, the Whitens family, two different ones for the Whitens family, and they're very beautiful. And yes, there are bodies inside of those. The main office for the cemetery is up there too. Okay, this says on it, Reverend Sidney Holman, died 1874, a faithful minister of Jesus Christ. Well, there's two things to point out. First of all, the stone is exfoliated on this front face, this piece here, and also on this piece here. So if they don't get to it within a couple of decades, it probably will fall off, and that'll be horrible. They have to put it back in place. But most importantly, on the side here is another person's name, Thomas Sidney Holman, son of Sidney Holman, died December 7th, 1862, age 28, member of the 1st Regiment of Volunteers of Massachusetts. He died because of wounds that were acquired during the course of the Civil War. So he died because of the American Civil War. His wounds were so grave, he came back from the South, and he came back to the Goshen area. Actually, his father had moved from Holyoke to Goshen, and for a month he lived out there, but he ended up dying of the injuries he received during the Civil War. There's another burial in the cemetery of another person that died because of the American Civil War. So there's two, and that's very unusual. Now, all right, our last stop of four going around this oval, we're in front of Joseph Louis Wyckoff's gravestone. He founded a mill called White and Wyckoff, and he also developed a whole entire neighborhood and a golf course. And I give a tour on that old golf course, and I point out where his house is. He has a beautiful house. But you can see his stone is very modest for such an incredibly rich man. He's buried next to his wife here, and they both give the dates of birth and death and the locations also. All right, so what's going to happen now, we're going to go around this oval, and without more information, we're just going to look at what's around and look at the trees and so forth as you go around. Thank you.
Hold on.